Man, I was hoping Lewis would get a penalty for that yellow flag infringement. Lewis's podium at Silverstone, and not because I wish any ill upon Lewis, as if that would matter. But man, can you imagine the Brits, the fans, the conspiracy theories? God, that would have been great. And just it all would have added up. It ends under safety car. Lewis with the infringement. Then there was a safety car error message. There was some umbrella thing earlier that caused a little bit of chaos. Freaking umbrella, of course, in England. But man, that would have been great. We need a mystery. Us Scoobies, we need a mystery.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
All right, you ready to go, son?
I'm ready to go.
Hello, welcome to Hard Compound FC with your host Brian and Patrick. Silverstone, England, race 9. Charles Leclerc, finally, first win since 2024. Damn. Robbed us of an all-British podium. Love seeing Charles there, up there. Okay, Patrick, son, who gets the flowers for the British Grand Prix?
Yeah, it was pretty good from Charles. He's now got the same number of wins as Lewis this season. He's got just one less win than George this season, which, I don't know, is that good for Charles or bad for George? Who's to say? But I think, he really needed a bounce back, and I think he did pretty well. It wasn't looking so great on Friday and early Saturday, but when it really counted, his race qualifying was very good. Obviously beat out Lewis by a little bit there. And then he pretty much led from start to finish, more or less,
Basically.
in the race. Who's to say what would have happened if Kimi didn't have a suspension failure or whatever it was? But other than Kimi, which I feel like we say this pretty much every weekend, nobody else was actually really matching Leclerc. Antonelli this season has been insane. He's just by far the fastest, basically everywhere, seems like, which has been super impressive to watch. And again, he was pretty much here as well. He's still young, and then some things go against him that are out of his control, and, stuff happens. But I think on the whole, Leclerc had best Sunday of anybody. Obviously, top step of the podium, but to have that kind of bounce back after the last few races was really important, I think.
Yeah. And Kimi Antonelli, he sometimes has these episodes where he's a little bit petulant, but he's 19 and he's in a race, Really, he's looking, I still think Max is the best driver on the grid, but he's looking really good and seasoned beyond his years. It's been really impressive to watch him overall this year. George's first podium at Silverstone, though, that caught me by surprise. I hadn't really thought of that. He had never been on the podium in Silverstone. I was a bit shocked by that. Similarly, I had predicted, I think it was after the Canadian Grand Prix, because Kimi was on a roll. And I was thinking, you know what? Charles has 8 wins, Oscar has 9. I think Kimi gets the 10 wins before either of them. But now Charles and Oscar are both at 9. We don't know. Ferrari's looking good. The last few weeks, it hasn't worked out perfectly for them in any race for the whole team, but this was close. We had Charles and Lewis both on the podium. Ferrari looked pretty decent all weekend. Mercedes were 9 races in. They still have various reliability issues. It's looking good this season.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a lot better, a lot more promising than last season was for Ferrari. It's been fun, I think, to kind of watch the season as a whole at the front. I think everyone is sort of aware Mercedes absolutely has the upper hand on essentially every track. But Ferrari is close enough to cause a lot of problems if they get their deployment strategies right, if they get, a few things that go well for them. And then if, Charles and Lewis are driving well, that puts a lot of pressure on Mercedes. And I think we've seen that over the last several races, right? We've had 2 Ferrari wins in the last 3 races, I want to say. So they're obviously looking pretty good. They're still a ways back in the overall constructor standings, but to watch them be able to battle at the front, and we're not just seeing the two Mercedes drivers run away at the front like we were, from 2014 to 2019, and then just those two battle it out. This has been a lot more fun to watch. So
Yeah,
to
it
all
has.
you haters,
Right, right. I'm always,
flop.
yeah, we got
But
all these haters being like, oh, we did too much hybrid. Oh, that's not, it's artificial. Oh, it shouldn't have passed. It's battery management. It's like, and just, I'm not even talking the distant past. Like you were saying, in 2014 to 2020, practically, it was like Mercedes doesn't see who, they doesn't see anybody because they win qualifying and they take off and it's Hamilton and it's Bottas and we never, it was that way every race for years. I mean, I think that's really the only mark on Lewis Hamilton is he has all those championships under Mercedes when the car was like, look, if it wasn't for you or if it wasn't you, Bottas would have won those. That's how good that car was. All right, let's look at the driver standings real quick. Kimi, 179. He still is in the lead despite 0 points. George, 154. But there's 13 races to go. That's doable. Also doable. Lewis Hamilton, 147. Then Charles Bittmore back, 108. Lando and Oscar, 97, 82. Max is at 76. Max is in seventh place. I mean, I know he's pushing the hell out of that car, but I don't know. I mean, is this the end of the Max Red Bull relationship? Is he had enough? Where is he gonna go?
well, I think the relationship has been deteriorating for some time. At least that's what it seemed like. And I think that's a lot of that is due to kind of the dissolution of that sort of like, I don't know what to call it. The clique that was there at Red Bull with
Yeah,
Horner and Newey and,
GP.
Helmut and everybody, right? And that is all gone. So everything that Max knew at Red Bull is all gone. I don't know if anybody listens to him anymore. I don't know if he even wants to give any feedback or anything like that at this point. So it kind of doesn't seem like it, at least not in a lot of the radio messages that we get to hear and some of the, press conferences that he gives. He kind of just says everything is shit, right? It's like, well,
Right,
that's not really helpful,
right,
right? We had this conversation about Lewis last year. It's like, that's maybe not helpful. That's not really pushing the team forward. That's not getting you anywhere.
right. Just complaining.
So I think, it feels like his sort of relationship with management at Red Bull is not ideal at this point. We'll see where all that goes. There's been plenty of rumors already starting up about him in talks with McLaren. So we'll
I,
see if any of that pans out. I can't imagine McLaren being like, oh yeah, Max, come join Lando,
right,
our golden boy. Like,
right, right. But
really?
well, for starters, I think some of Max's criticism. Well, I mean, hey, divas are gonna diva. I get it. He wants the best car. Okay, so push for that, of course. And Lewis Hamilton is doing that at Ferrari. But the fact that, and also, it wasn't lost on me this week again, a wing issue. Boom, he's out of the race while Horner is there, shaking hands, talking about his new book, like the best team principal in history. I mean, Max has got to say, hey, what's going on here? Although, then to be fair to Red Bull, though, Max has only been there a year, essentially. Ford Red Bull Power Unit was a works team. This is it. This is their very first entry. I think that's, pretty damn impressive. I know Max disagrees. But yeah, you mentioned him joining McLaren. Toto does not want drama and has already locked up George and Kimmy. Max has got baggage. He's going to bring Jose. He's going to, and Jose is going to bitch. Jose is going to constantly try to get more for his boy. I understand that, but Toto doesn't want that. You know, Lewis Hamilton's dad was kind of a quiet presence. Jos Verstappen is not. Ferrari, I mean, unless Lewis were to shock us and retire, they want Lewis and Leclerc. And, Max he's gonna kind of outshine the brand a bit. Then till next you think, okay, well then it's McLaren, obviously. But like you pointed out, Lando's their golden boy. Zach Brown absolutely does not like Jos Verstappen. I don't think he likes Max terribly. So where's he gonna go? If not Red Bull, and you're now at the fourth team, so that's Red Bull. So where's he gonna go?
Yeah, I think everyone just sort of assumes like Max is just gonna follow GP, right? Like his
Right.
race engineer to McLaren. It's like, well, Max is his own person, and I don't think that he fits in at McLaren
Yeah.
like the way people just sort of expect it to happen. So yeah, I don't know where he goes. I almost think, he's like, well, I just won't race in F1 for a little bit, maybe.
Maybe
Who's
he
to
could say
say?
that. I mean, to me, Max not an F1. That's Michael Jordan playing baseball. It's like, sure, you can be fine elsewhere, but that's not where you're going to shine. What's the point? I also thought it was interesting this week when you start looking at all the young drivers, how well they did. A long while ago, you mentioned how with these new cars, new regulations, the advancement of technologies and materials, computing, and just the way of the world, that we're moving away in Formula One from that fighter pilot, like a Max Verstappen, and more into the younger, sort of well-connected engineer, the from fighter pilot to space shuttle engineer. And I mean, results seem to be bearing this out. These young guys, that they seem to be figuring out these cars, not losing out to their veteran teammates. Hadjar is, I mean, he's not beating Max, but he's hanging.
Yeah, I mean it's been a lot of fun to see and watch some of the young guys and how they're performing. And I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it is that there is some innate ability to adapt more quickly from kind of younger, less experienced drivers to this sort of new driving style, I guess. So, that may very well be the case, or, you know, just kind of the stubborn nature of some of the veteran drivers. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's kind of fascinating to see how a lot of these results are kind of, I guess, showing us who really is capable of adapting more quickly or better than others. And it's been quite interesting to see. I think Lewis is sort of the one driver where you go, wow, I maybe didn't expect him to be able to adapt as quickly as he has to these types of kind of, or this driving style. It seems like so many others are finding it difficult and just sort of complaining to no end. But
Right,
maybe he
right,
got all of his complaints out last season, and
right.
now he's over it and is just getting on with it. So
Yeah. But, like, for example, Alonso has been just complaining. He doesn't like these rules. He doesn't like these regulations. And I feel for him. It's like he's from the old school. He's the fighter pilot. He doesn't want to be the space shuttle engineer. The scientist in the back seat just sort of looking out a window. And I mean, geez, it's hard to blame him given that car. I mean, there's really no excuses for how bad Aston Martin is. I mean, they're just terrible. But it is interesting, you know, seeing how the dinosaurs adapt and evolve to this new world. Let me look at team standings real quick. Mercedes, 333. It seems at this point they can only beat themselves. Ferrari, 255. McLaren, 179. Red Bull, way back, 128. Then Alpine at 60. But look at Racing Bulls, the young guys. How about that? At 59, just a point back. Huh, weird. Every Ford Red Bull driver this week got points except for Max.
that might be the second time this season that has happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of these results are pretty cool to see, especially given how last season went. So, you get a big regulations change and look, a whole lot of shakeup happens. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, Mercedes out front, there's basically no way that anyone catches them, I think, at this point. They've had so many, DNFs this season. It's quite surprising. The first several, I think, went to George, and now several have gone to Kimmy. I know he didn't technically DNF, but got no points because
Yeah,
of some reliability
suspension.
issues
Yeah,
on his car. So that definitely hurts. And we were talking about, well, George has gotten so unlucky through the first like 5 races of the season or whatever, but the last several races, like Kimmy has gotten outrageously unlucky, seemingly unlucky, I guess. And yet he's still 40 points or whatever it is ahead of George.
it's surprising how the lead he
But
has on George.
yeah, but then yeah, going down kind of these team standing order, Ferrari, is kind of holding their own. That I think is a little surprising to a lot of people maybe. They've been doing really well. Almost 100 points, I guess, ahead of McLaren at this point, who have just been kind of nowhere to be seen. It's a little weird after a dominant championship performance last year.
Yeah, they're just there's no point. They're just what's the point of watching them? They're not kind of the young guns, and they're not fighting for wins.
Yeah, it's weird. And then Red Bull, Racing Bulls, Alpine, I think all of those teams have been kind of fun to watch, actually. I know, Red Bull really wants to get up there and fight for podiums and whatnot. And I feel like at some point it'll maybe be a little bit more consistent towards the end of this season. But for now, Max being frustrated, Isaac has been holding his own, like you said, and doing well. But that Racing Bulls team, the Alpine team, is a lot of fun to watch. Generally, younger guys, right? I think Gasly is the only driver that's been on the grid for more than 3 years, and they're constantly fighting in
Yeah,
that mid pack. Like, are they going to finish top five or are they going to finish bottom five? You're not really sure. So
right. No, I was especially been enjoying watching Racing Bulls, but Alpine too. I'm happy for Alpine. They're trying to salvage the team. That's good to see. A team that sort of shocked me in just how bad they've been. Well, no one has been as bad as Aston Martin. I did also expect more from Audi. Okay, they're new this year, but they're taking over Sauber. I did expect more. I also, and I'd say I expected more from Cadillac. I know it's their very first year. Everything's a struggle, but I was hoping for a bit better. But man, Williams, I'm not even sure James Foles survives the year. This is just they're just so bad. I mean, is it just such utter institutional rot? Was the team just barely holding on? Were they just so far behind? I don't. I mean, they're not even worth watching.
yeah, they're lame. I mean, it's tough. They seem like they kind of got it back on, or Vols got it back on the right track. After a couple of seasons there, heading in the right direction, and then you get this new regs change, and it seems like they went straight back to square one. You're like, well, how does that really happen, right? You have been here for several years now. You knew you were getting a power unit from Mercedes, right? So you don't have that to worry about. Obviously, you have to worry about it. There are a lot of things you have to learn about the engine or power unit and everything. But you can focus a lot on other items, I guess, with your kind of manpower. It's weird to see how poor they have done this year. They're lost. I mean, they're kind of at best scrapping with Haas, who's also been frankly poor this year. They I
Yeah,
expected more from them as well. It's tough. You think you got all this influx of cash when the team was sold, and they're not really doing anything with it.
Yeah,
It's weird. It would be interesting to see, kind of an all access documentary or something about this team,
right.
because this is one of the more historic teams in Formula One, and they were basically forced to sell because ownership was, let's face it, bad. And then, they bring in the Toto backed Vols to come and turn things around, and it looks like maybe they are going in the right direction, and then all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found again. It's tough. And Albon is just nothing also. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm like, well, at this
he's not been
point Albon can leave.
right.
He's
Albon's not been a factor all year in any way. Sainz has had a couple moments where he was fun to watch, but I mean, and plus we've had the spending cap in place for a few years now. I would have thought that would have worked itself through. I mean, if you win, you get more money. Is the existing infrastructure of the teams, Mercedes in 2020 compared to Williams in 2020, Red Bull in 2020 compared to, I don't know, Audi, the equivalent of Sauber in 2020, was the advantage in the infrastructure and talent locked in, and just so the gap so large that even with a spending cap for several years, they're still not even coming close. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to yeah, I don't know. Williams is frustrating because
Yeah,
it's one of those teams where historically you go, this is a team that needs to be doing well. And for them to have been a bottom feeder for well over a decade now, I mean,
yeah,
that's tough.
it is. Related note: it's not even the summer break yet, and we've already sort of entered a early silly season. Who do you think is out at the end of the year? We've heard Ocon is going to be out. I've heard Liam Lawson will be out. Gasly and Colapinto will be out. There's a lot of these rumors spreading. Some of these, I think, for example, an Alpine Briatore likes to stir the pot. He likes to, make shit. And, he thinks he likes to move the pieces on the chessboard. He likes to believe everybody's a piece on the chessboard and he's moving them about. And so I think he actually puts out some of these rumors. But I don't know. Are you expecting any big moves during the year or by the end of the year?
I don't know about big moves. I could certainly see Ocon being out at Haas. You know, I don't know if Haas really has anyone in mind to bring in, right? I think that's what a lot of this hinges on, right? Is, well, if you're getting rid of somebody for, let's call it, lack of performance, then who are you bringing in that you are pretty sure is going to better that?
Right.
Is Haas really going to attract anyone that's bettering what Ocon can do?
That's a
I
good
don't
point.
know.
Yeah. That's
So I'm like, yeah, I could see Ocon going out, but like, who then comes in? Is that really beneficial for Haas? I think having kind of stability for several years in a row is going to be really important for that team. And I think Ayo Komatsu is kind of clear on that. So unless like Toyota goes, hey, if you want our money, you're going to have to put somebody else in that seat, then I don't see Ocon actually leaving Haas. But I mean, there's several other guys you mentioned, right? I mean, who's to say Albon sticks around at Williams realistically, or the Cadillac drivers, right? Maybe there's a change there. So we'll see. I'm not anticipating like a massive change like Verstappen leaving or, the Hamilton to Ferrari move. I don't really expect anything like that to happen. So we'll see.
switching to the soft compound, the Caitlin Clark treatment. I don't watch basketball and don't know anything about women's basketball, except I know Caitlin Clark because every American knows Caitlin Clark because she's a huge superstar in women's basketball. She's the reason why they all now fly in private jets and they fill out arenas and there's games on television because of one person, Caitlin Clark. But it seems as if the entire league and all the players hate her. Near as I can tell, they hate her because she's just way better than them. Okay, she's essentially the Michael Jordan of women's basketball, whereas Michael Jordan, they're like, we gotta defeat this guy. But man, he's raining down cash on the league. In women's basketball, they're all like, we can't just defeat her. We must get rid of her, even though that will be to our great detriment. I don't want to get involved in women being irrational in their thought processes here. I'm just saying. I'm just putting out the facts. But I wonder, is there anybody in F1 where you think people just kind of hate them? I mean, because the only person I can see is George Russell. I don't know. I'm not sure the other people, maybe the other drivers hate him, the other teams hate him. The British, even the Brits, and I think this is because when he joined Mercedes, he didn't bow down to Lewis. But I don't know. Is there anybody even remotely analogous in F1 to Caitlin Clark, Patrick?
I mean, I know very little about Caitlin Clark, but I I mean, I'll say nobody likes a disruptor. So, you know, getting on the bandwagon of hating the disruptor that comes in and changes everything, whether those changes actually benefit you or not,
Right.
people hate that, right? They don't see the benefit. They only see the disruption. And so I think there are three main people that kind of fall into that category, and then like a couple others that maybe people just hate to hate, or for different reasons. But I'll say like disruptors, right? It's Max, it's Horner, it's Zach Brown, right? People hate them because they they changed the status quo, and they didn't care what you thought. They made the sport better, but have clearly ruffled feathers with their actions and how they treated others, spoke to others, whatever. And you can hate that, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with like just hating. And I'm not
Oh,
and I don't
it's what
and
makes
I
us
don't
alive. It's what makes
yeah,
us human.
and I don't necessarily think like, oh, everybody else on the grid hates these guys. I'm not sure that anybody really like hates anyone else. I think that's an inherently like American thing to voice our hate, right? The Brits really love to keep it inside, They just hold it in
Do they?
and do backhanded nasty shit, right? Americans will do it to your face. That's why everybody in NASCAR gets into actual fights.
Oh, funny. That's a good. Well, now here, let me. So the opposite. So I know dick about women's basketball. I also know dick about soccer. But just before we started recording, we found out that the literal president of the United States of America basically strong armed who does the World Cup? FIFA, and says, "Hey, you red carded our boy. Have you seen what we did to the president of Venezuela? Like you may wish to rethink your action." And they did. They actually unred carded this guy, which is pretty badass in one way. But I'm also thinking like, who could get that treatment in F1? Maybe Lewis Hamilton. Maybe Charles. Charles, it would have to be Charles, right? He's Monaco's boy. The prince would maybe make a call. Like, who would get that treatment in F1?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, probably it would have to be Lewis or Kimmy,
Oh,
you
okay,
know.
so not Charles, huh? Right.
I don't think anybody cares about Charles.
No, no, maybe maybe
Anybody
what about
care about Charles?
Sergio? What? Because you got his dad is super rich, and then you got the president of Mexico, and they all love him.
Yeah,
Sergio,
Sergio maybe. I don't know if Claudia can really wheel and deal like Donnie T, so I don't know.
funny,
But
funny.
maybe. I mean, maybe. We'll see. I think it'd have to be Lewis. It would have to be Lewis. I mean, honestly,
King
I
Charles
think
putting in a
Toto would
call.
even still look out for Lewis. He would be like, you know what? No, Lewis is my guy.
Maybe
Or
you're right.
Lando, maybe. I don't know. The McLaren Golden Boy. Who's to say?
Our dirty air segment. Not really dirty air, but I'm wondering. I brought this up maybe a year ago. Should Apple buy F1? Literally, the world's richest publicly traded corporation worth many trillions of dollars should buy Formula One. I was thinking about this because Fox Sports just bought a third of IndyCar. So they're looking at how we going to promote this, how we going to make deals with sponsors, how we going to monetize it across all the various social media platforms. And I think they got pretty good prices, $130 million. Said IndyCar is worth about $400 million. I think that's a good price. Why not? Apple's looking at one say it's growing in popularity. It's growing in America. The demographics are trending toward younger, toward women. Apple loves that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fascinating. And I think there would be tons of benefit for Apple to do such a thing. Potentially a lot of benefit for fans and teams involved. I just feel like the Europeans, as they always do, would litigate the shit out of it. And it would just drag on and on and on and ultimately not be worth it for Apple to go through with that purchase. So I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know. It seems like Europeans, nations really don't, they seem to have a lot of issues with tech companies in particular and their like large acquisitions, especially of like entertainment or media like things.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I don't really fault them. I mean, you got America on one side, China on the other side. You got 6 billion poor people trying to storm the gates. What's Europe going to do? And I get it. And so they sort of create these very non transparent, many tentacled beasts, FIFA, FIA, where you're like, well, who do we buy? Who do we own? That's why Bernie Ecclestone ruled F1 for so long because he could wheel a deal that way. So maybe, yeah, you're probably right. I would just be curious if a corporation would literally just buy everything lock, stock, and barrel that was its own media platform, like Apple wants to be.
Hmm.
You brought up AI encroaching on Formula One in so many ways, and you mentioned, I think, in last week's episode that many of these ways are not good. And if we follow the progression, it's sort of an obvious progression of how AI could infiltrate F1. We could have paddocks where you don't even need people. It's not fun. But AI is powered by computing, data. And I was thinking about this because the World Cup is going on right now. I'm watching the sprint, and it was a sprint or qualifying, but Lewis beat Kimmy, and it was like by 0.01 seconds or something like this. Essentially an imperceptible amount. And we want that. We want that technology that's like, who came in first, who came in second. Oh, Lewis got the sprint. Lewis got qualified, by a millisecond, essentially. While at the same time, the whole world is howling because, I don't know, soccer, you'll have to tell me. Some team, was it Croatia, where they had some issue where the guy he had like a toe across a virtual line, and they had to look at it, and it's like, well, that's harmful to the game. It's like we need to find a way where it's like data makes the sport better, like being able to determine who came in first and who came in second, and where data and virtual reality and AI are harming the sport, where like a dude with a pinky toe across an invisible line, now that disqualifies a goal. I think it was Croatia, by the way. I don't follow soccer. You would know.
Yeah, I think The toe across an invisible line was somebody else. Croatia, I think, though the toe across the invisible line on the field, a referee with literal eyeballs called it offside. So, like, to me, when they went back and actually confirmed that the call was correct, I'm like, well, I don't know why people are upset about this because the literal call on the field was correct.
Fair enough,
Like, it wasn't not called,
but we want
right?
to sport. We don't want to watch a fucking episode of Forensic Files. I mean,
I
maybe we
understand.
do
I
want to watch
understand.
that, but for
The
other reasons.
Croatia thing was like another offside call. Ball sort of grazed some guy. And if
Yeah,
it didn't graze him, if it did not graze him, then it wouldn't have been offside. But it did graze him, so it was offside. Anyways, that there are sensors in the ball that can tell when it is touched, even very slightly, and you can't see it really with actually. And so they were able to determine that. So I understand, like, yeah, what are the ways that we want this to be used in our sport, and what are the ways we don't want it, right? And I think soccer in general has gotten it very wrong. The implementation of how they use that type of technology. I think, you talked about the red card that was given to the US player, ultimately took it away, which is kind of nice. But it wasn't called on the field as a red card, but they went back and looked frame by frame, at a play. And when you do that, you don't get any sense of what actually happened. You just look, oh, frame by frame, yeah, that's obviously a red card. So those kinds of things, I think, ruin the intention and the integrity of the sport. And so I think, F1 needs to be a little bit careful about how they implement some of those changes, whether it's, just to timing or to some of these like penalties that get applied, right? We've had a lot of issues, I think, in the last several races with some kind of weird penalties being applied. There was one in this race, Lewis's 5-second penalty for his sort of false start infringement, that the way the rule is, like, they applied a 5-second penalty, but it's not like he actually gained an advantage,
yeah,
right? Kimmy, same thing. It's like, well, yeah, he's going off, but like that's because he can't steer his car. It's not like he's actually gaining anything from going off, but
right.
they give him a penalty for it. It's like, well, maybe we shouldn't let just like the black and white decide. Sometimes it's good to be completely objective. Sometimes you need a little bit of subjectivity in there. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the sport kind of progresses in that direction and what they choose to apply and whether or not that makes the sport less enjoyable.
Across the line. That is our segment where we predict the top five for the next race. The next race is in 2 weeks in Belgium. They're the ones that just got screwed by by America calling up and saying, "You're not going to red card our boy."
Wouldn't have
Last
mattered. They're fucking going down anyways.
year, right? Nice, nice, nice. That's good. That's good. Okay, so last year, well, Max won the sprint, but in the race, McLaren was dominant. Was Oscar Lando, then Charles. Oh, it's long rain delay. I mean, there's always rain delays. I mean, it was 2021, our infamous Shaka when the walls fell episode where they did that, you know, that like 2 to 3 lap race, and they said, "Oh, we'll call it a race. We'll give everybody half
Oh
points."
yeah, was
I
that
mean,
that was George Russell's first points in F1, wasn't it?
was it?
Because he
Wow.
had some insane qualifying
Right, right. Wow. So
with Williams. Yeah.
right in across the line, we choose the top five for the next race. If our driver comes in the top five, we get a point. If he comes in the exact race spot we chose, we get 3 points. Patrick, what are the current standings of across the line?
All right, current standings. Oof. Coming in today, you had a lead, 34 points to my 20. Top five from this race that ended under a crappy safety car
Right.
was Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, Norris, Hadjar. Your picks for this week were Russell, Verstappen, Hadjar, Norris, Gasly. So you
Oh,
got a point each for Russell and Hadjar, and then 3 for Lando in P4.
nice.
So 5 total. I had Hamilton, Antonelli, Piastri, Leclerc, Behrman. So I just got a point each for Hamilton and Leclerc, both in the top 5, not in their exact position. So that means now you're up 39, is it, to my 22?
Ooh, this is a
Oof.
Kimmy. I got the Kimmy Antonelli lead going. Nice, nice. All right, who goes first for Belgium Grand Prix?
Well, I have first pick in this
All right,
this race. So screw it, I'm gonna take Kimmy.
I am going to take his teammate because I think George is had enough. Similarly, I'm going to take Charles Leclerc in P2 because I think he's had enough. I think he's saying, St. Louis, this is my team.
Well, I'm gonna say Lewis says no, and he comes in P2. And then I'm gonna say, Max figures it out a little bit, and his rear wing closes when it's time to turn the car. So I'm gonna say he takes the last spot on the podium.
Nice. Well, I'm going to take his teammate, Edjar, and then I'm going to go McLaren with Lando.
Nice. Then you know what? We'll keep it going. I'll take Oscar. I think he, you know, he just had trouble today. It was not great. We'll see if he can turn it around in Belgium. Let's see, P5. I'll take one of the racing bulls, maybe. Liam Lawson.
Oh, I was going to take Liam. Nice. So you got Kimmy, Lewis, Max, Oscar, and Liam for the Belgian Grand Prix. I have George, Charles, Isaac, Hajar, Lando, and I'm going to go with Colapinto.
Nice.
Any crazy predictions, Patrick?
Well, I've got a bunch of predictions,
Nice.
but they're all crazy. And I'll just do 2. The first one is we're not at the summer break yet, but it is coming, but not for long. The American takeover is truly the American takeover. We don't get summer breaks in this great country of ours. We will no longer have a summer break in F1 within the next 5 years. We're just not going to do that anymore. We're just going to say, look,
Sacred blue, Patrick.
what the hell is wrong? We're going to just keep working because obviously.
Right.
So,
Nice.
not going to be a big old break in the middle of summer anymore. We're going to have silly season throughout the year or at the end of the year. It's not going to happen in the middle of summer. Then, my next one is F1 is going to learn a thing or two about America from this World Cup. And they're going to change around the schedule pretty soon to have all American races together. And we're going to get a merry band road trip going through the Americas in F1. Miami to Austin to Vegas to Mexico City over, a month and a half. It's going to be a party. They're going to do watch parties everywhere, driver kind of appearances, all these different things all throughout America. I mean, I don't know why this hasn't already happened, but I think it's going to happen.
Get on. That is awesome. Get on the bus. This could be like a 6-week party. That's awesome. And it's like, hey, you don't have to keep flying back and forth.
Yeah,
Hit Miami,
you just
big
come out
party
here.
there. Boom. We're gonna roll the party into Austin, Texas. Boom. It's nighttime. We're heading to Las Vegas. I love this. This would be awesome. This would be awesome. Those are great ones. I finally have a great one, and it's truly crazy. 13 races left. You say? No. What I say is, at the end of the 13 races, Lewis Hamilton will be in P2. But hold on. 2 races were canceled. Somehow F1's going to claw 1 race back. I have it in Bahrain. So we're going to have 14 races. And because of that 14th race, Lewis Hamilton wins his 8th Drivers' Championship.
Nice.
All right, I want to thank you all for listening to everybody's most beloved father and son F1 podcast. It is much appreciated. We hope you do subscribe and tell a friend. And we are lights out.
Thanks for listening.
Did you know that race car spelled backwards is race car?
I did. It is the one palindrome that everybody gets taught in grade school.
Oh, I did not know that.